Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be the Love to Awaken Our Souls. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Brenda Carey. We are your co hosts and souls on the journey, and we are on a mission to raise the consciousness of humans and the planet, and we need your help. Please spread the word to your family and friends and join us every week. Consider becoming a Patreon supporter or a sponsor to help with the operating costs like editing and the many hours we spend creating these shows with quality guests and content. And if you have resonated with our mission, support us in a way that raises your vibration to love.
And if it feels safe for you, I'd like to begin by inviting you to get centered with us. I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present. And take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy. And breathing out anything you are ready to release in this moment now. And take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love for yourself, deep into your heart space. And imagine breathing that light and love and send it back to all of humanity, remembering that you always, always have your breath to come back to.
I look forward to this conversation because our mission here on Be the Love podcast is simply to raise the consciousness of humans and the planet. And sometimes this concept of raising consciousness can bring a little bit of confusion. I know when I first started on my spiritual path, this is decades ago now, I was really confused and was looking at so many different authors and teachers and spiritual leaders and thought, well, who do I follow, or who is right, or which person has the best concepts or ideas for my life? And I found myself looking outside of myself most of the time. And when we're starting out on our spiritual journey, it's absolutely not a bad thing. We are looking for some direction and guidance when we need it. However, I do think ultimately, as we begin to walk this path with hopefully a little more wisdom and trusting our own inner guide, that we look within. And that's what we are going to really talk about today, is how can we take some of the amazing spiritual ideas that we see out in the world and then filter them through our own unique energetic signature that has its own unique spiritual path. And that's how we develop our personal how-to guide to raise consciousness. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation with Stacy and just really diving deep into what does it mean exactly to raise our consciousness of ourselves and then ultimately the whole planet.
Hmm. I really think this is such a beautiful topic, and so important, really, because I remember, because I've been on this journey for decades as well. That kind of
Yeah,
dates us, right? But
yeah, we're aging ourselves right there.
I started when I was 5. No, I was kidding. Oh, I've been on the spiritual journey for, yeah, I would say my whole life, really. But the real, like really when things started to come into my awareness, right? It was probably about 20 years ago. And so, um, but it was my journey led me down like finding all these books and courses and all the people out there and back then there wasn't really the internet that you had like and so now there's like all these messages coming through, right? And everyone has a message. Everyone says this is how it is or this is how it is, right? And so
Mhm.
and I know I've been to some spiritual teachers that you had to do some things certain ways and so a lot of these things didn't resonate with me, and it didn't feel right in the moment. But I remember at the time I was like, well, they must know if they've got all these books, or
Right.
but something still didn't feel right. And so when I started trusting the feeling I was getting when I was with these teachers or in these courses or reading this material, that was the part of me that had to really trust that this was not the path for me. I wasn't didn't resonate, right? And when it doesn't resonate, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good in the body. And so we have to like really discern, like, this is it their truth or is it our truth, right? And so then it's time to maybe move on if something doesn't completely resonate. So you move on and then, but there's this inner awareness that you start to cultivate because you recognize that, what feels true. And this is a process, but I think, you can get there a little quicker, with some of these tools and recognizing that we don't have to give our power away to these said spiritual leaders because these spiritual leaders are human too, right? And so they're coming from what their truth might be. And so we have to resonate, or we have to trust in what resonates with us and what aligns with our beingness. And maybe, as I've gone on this journey, it's been maybe a little piece of this or a little piece of that. And, it's not just one thing, but it's a culmination of the things that I've learned along the way and how I've alchemized it all into my life.
I love how you use the term alchemy in a spiritual sense, because I do think that's how we grow and evolve in our spiritual path. I mean, my very brief history is, although I didn't grow up in the Christian church, I actually became very curious with it while I was in college, and I did uh, the deep dive Christian journey. And I attended churches, I led Bible studies, I went on mission trips. I mean, check all the boxes. And that was through most of my 20s. And then I had what I guess could be called an awakening at the birth of my first daughter. And by no means did this awakening say, "Oh, you need to leave the church and go your own path." It wasn't like that at all, because I truly do love the teachings of love. I think if we aligned with the teachings, this feminine love and compassion for all, we wouldn't nearly have all the horrible issues of hunger and poverty and war that we do now. But as I still remember to this day, holding my infant daughter in my arms, and I got like this glimpse of how, whether you call it God, universe, spirit, I think vocabulary can really kind of get in the way of our experience. And I held her and I had this glimpse of just pure, perfect love. And I've had other glimpses throughout my life of what would be, I mean, some people might refer to it like a burst of enlightenment or awakening or whatever someone might call it. And I knew in that moment that there was going to be a different path for me. And it was scary because I had been a part of the church for so long and had many, many friends, and slowly started to move away and explore other spiritual traditions. One of them, I had the opportunity to work with the Navajo people on the reservation, and learning about other indigenous ancient wisdom type cultures. Studied yoga. And yes, initially it was more of a physical practice, but then also studied the Yoga Sutras, and that opened my eyes. And studied the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, and that opened my eyes once again, and started to notice the similarities and the parallels. And it was this beautiful unfolding for me. And I didn't feel like I had to follow one path in one direction. And I still lead with, if it feels in alignment with love, why we call this podcast like Be the Love. Part of my growth was also taking head knowledge, because we can learn a lot of things from other teachers about spirituality, but to really be it, embody it, and then live from it, like that, I think has over the decades, as we both have been on this spiritual path for many decades, has really been the integration of spirituality. It's not just something that I do one day a week or certain times of the day. I do my best, at least in this human lifetime, to allow my spiritual beliefs to be a part of how I interact with other people and the world and the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's beautiful. It's really it really is, it's a practice, right? And we we have to practice this, daily and whatever that means, but it doesn't have to be complex. Like our human minds want to make it complex. And I love how you put that though, as far as, really integrating the knowledge,
Mhm.
right? Because the knowledge we live in such a information world, right? The info
Overload.
age, overload. And, I know for me that was like for the longest time, I was like, I was reading and just trying to bring in all the knowledge that I could. And, but without that embodiment, right, it's just knowledge and it's just in the mind, right? But then when we start to really embody it and get to know it on a deeper level, it becomes that wisdom. It becomes the connection to what that is. And then we can really step into it on such a deeper level, but the embodiment is so important. And when we move forward, we can create the simplicity of what it's really meant to be, right? When we embody it, and it doesn't have to be this complex thing. And it's not complex, but our human minds like to make it very complicated and want to create more, more of, oh, it has to be done this way or, that way. And, and there's no one way, right? There's many paths to the same destination. But what is the body? What is the soul? What is it feeling like is resonant with what what you're needing and what your truth is? Because that's really that's the ultimate experience, is discovering what your truth is, because there's many truths out there. It's not just one person has all the answers, or like one religion, right? Because there's so many religions in the world and so many spiritual uh, beliefs and, different philosophies and everything. And there's so many truths. And to say that there's only one truth is I believe an ego. Is coming from the ego and not from the human, because it all essentially comes from a place of love. It is all love. And that's why we have to be the love. And, and when we start loving ourselves, that emanates outward, and that will shift the energy of ourselves and consciousness of the planet.
Absolutely. Shifting our own consciousness to eventually shift the consciousness of the planet. And I love how you say sometimes our minds make it so complex with all the rules and systems and processes. And I think for me, at least, back back in the day, I was really wanting to make sense, like rational sense. Like this was my reptilian brain. I was going through a lot of change. Obviously, in my 20s, we're always going through change, but really trying to figure out who I really was in this. And so I was really looking for some kind of like concrete, like black and white, proof. And so I felt like some of the rules within the church that provided me allowed me, at least temporarily, this illusion of safety. And so I really had to explore for myself, okay, what are the reasons why I'm seeking truth? And is that going to come from something outside of myself? Or do I really need to be intentional and raise consciousness or raise vibration, Christ consciousness is another way to put that, according to like Course of Miracles, which I would absolutely encourage our listeners to read if you haven't yet, and realize that in this life, there is going to be complexity and things are not always going to be safe, but there is a path that can carry us through, even when we do feel like life is uncertain. And that I think that when we embrace our, whether you call it truth, from a place of love, and we are intentional about how do we raise our consciousness and follow a spiritual path that feels right for us, it can really be quite an awakening experience. And so I love how you said keeping it simple. And so that's what we are going to close out our episode with, on 3 ways to raise your consciousness and to create your own how-to book, manual, whatever you want to call it, to raise your vibration. And Stacy and I came up with the first one, which is movement, and really somatic movement, really feeling into the body when emotions arise. I think our body is such a great barometer and can be such a great messenger. And I get it, for those of you who are struggling with physical pain, you might be like, well, wait a minute, that can be really intense. However, I do think that oftentimes when we stuff our emotions, it can come out in areas of the body, whether that's anxiety or depression or uncertainty, overwhelm. Kind of notice where you feel it without judging it a particular way, like not good, bad. It's just getting curious.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
noticing how we can find this movement.
Absolutely. It's I think movement is so important. Somatic movement, but also even being in stillness and feeling those
Mm.
emotions and the movement of the energy, right? The emotions as energy in motion. When we feel into that, right? We are allowing the layers of emotion, because emotions have layers, just as our experiences that we have created the embodiment of those experiences, and then we get to feel those layers. Like those negative experiences, right? Those get embodied too, and so we have to feel those layers through the emotion of whatever experience it is without putting the mind to it, right? And so allowing the mind to take a break, to focus on that emotion. Allow, if you have thoughts, just bring it back to that space in your body, and bringing awareness. Sometimes it's easy to want to avoid that emotion, but when you can just bring it back to the attention of that emotion and feel that, and maybe you need movement, right, to allow, maybe there's a yoga pose that would feel really good. What is that for
Mm.
you? So it's, stretching your body in the way that it's asking, and just tuning in and saying, what do you need right now? What do I need? And maybe it's, doing some cat cows or some, you know,
Walking is great.
walking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't have
yeah.
to be anything complex. And I think for me, it's key because I can get so stuck in my head, even, when I get stuck in, what do I believe? Is this the right thing? Maybe this isn't, like, so when I get really kind of overloaded, if I'm consuming too much information, like dropping it into the body, opening my arms wide and feeling the expansion of the heart physically is
Hmm.
so healing.
Yeah, yeah, that is so healing, and you're bringing that energy in, right? So you're bringing that energy. Not only are you feeling the emotion, but then you're expanding your body, right? And so, and then when you expand it, you're receiving that.
Mm.
And the second thing is sound. Sound can vibrate through emotion and just the energy that is in the body and help regenerate and nourish the cellular memories. And and sound can come in different ways. So I love like, I have like tuning forks that, tune to the resonance of the body, the singing, crystal singing bowls. Those are my favorite thing ever. I mean, they're all
Yeah.
like really beautiful, but I actually just bought a set of crystal singing bowls that are just amazing. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
I love my set, and they're tuned to the different chakras. And I think my
Hmm.
voice is probably one of my most powerful sound healing instruments. And I know sometimes we get hung up on like, oh, does it sound good or is it in tune or all that kind of thing? But really, it has nothing to do with the actual pitch or anything. It's just being able to feel that energy in the throat, out, out the mouth. And whether it's singing, chanting, humming, even, I mean, think about it, we're mostly water and sound affects, the vibration of water. So we're basically giving ourselves like I don't know, an inner water vibration massage. I'm not quite sure what to call that, but it can be so stimulating and help really kind of raise ourselves once again out of the overthinking reptilian brain into a higher vibration.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Sound is so powerful. The other thing that I wanted to mention here, and and it's not for everybody. And I just want to say that because it's a medicine, so plant medicine such as psilocybin, um, can be, and I'm talking psychedelic plant medicine, because there's different kinds of plant medicine, but so psilocybin can be a really powerful way to break through some of the layers and some of the rigidity that might be in the mind that maybe has been struggling to break through. Um, I work very intentionally as a psychotherapist with clients and doing some of this work. Through plant medicine, and it's very powerful, some of the results. And so, it's important that, we include all of these things, and and medicine, is it's really important to have like a lot of tools in place, such as meditation and somatic work connecting to the body. And it's not a fix all, or it's not we don't just, it's not a you take this and everything's great, right? It's there's a lot of work with it. So we do, a lot of preparation work. Then we, the meditation or the plant medicine journey, and then the integration. So we're integrating those messages and the different, the healing that may have occurred during a plant medicine journey, and this can really shift a lot of things, and it can change a lot of, um, the way you think about things, or because you're breaking, it's creating new neural networks, and you're breaking through some of the rigidity that may have been caused by old traumas or old experiences, and it can just be another tool on the path. And I've seen so many people, including myself, just have some life transformative experiences with plant medicine. So I just wanted to mention that as an also a tool to, on the path of healing and raising consciousness.
Mm. Yeah, and these are just three that we mentioned. There are so many other ways to raise consciousness. Ultimately, I think when we come back to being with ourselves and really being aware and noticing if this resonates with you or not. Maybe some of these will, maybe some of them won't, but ultimately we begin to trust our own inner intuition, our own inner wisdom, which we're going to talk about on our next episode. But we begin to develop that over the years. It takes time, it takes patience, but I definitely think it is definitely well worth the energy and effort on this spiritual path that we, all of us souls on the journey, are on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say one more thing about that is that, on this journey, there is no hierarchy, right? We're all on the same playing field. We're all in this together, and no one is better than the other person, right? And so we have to see ourselves as equals and recognizing that there is an equal playing field. And so just know that the spirituality is available to all, and we have to just learn to trust our own inner wisdom within that.
Mm, that's beautiful. And thank you for listening to Be the Love podcast. If you have enjoyed listening to our show, please share the love by sharing it with your family and friends, giving us a 5-star written review on iTunes and Spotify, or liking us on Facebook. I'm Brenda Carey, and as a holistic healer, I offer coaching and online programs to guide people in their sacred path to vibrant health. My website is sacredpathyogaandreiki.com.
And I'm Stacy Musial. I'm a psychotherapist specializing in whole person, deep soul healing. You can find out more about my work, my book, and programs at awakenyouремpoweredsoul.com. Check out our links in the show notes. And please consider supporting our mission to awaken our souls with a monthly donation that helps us with the operating costs of this podcast so we can continue to spread the love. To contribute, visit our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast.